We spend most of our lives chasing happiness. We constantly try new things to improve our mental well-being, like therapy, new exercise routines, and meditation. Some also believe that food can make us happy. Bananas, nuts, and chocolate are all said to lift our mood. But is this really the case? What does science say about this? Are there really happy-making substances in our food? Let's find out in today's video. In the past, food used to make us happy because it tasted great, because it perhaps consisted of special and expensive ingredients, or because we made a special effort when cooking. Today, happiness through food seems to be scientifically justified. On the internet, you can read about brain messengers or mysterious happiness hormones that are supposedly found in certain foods. They're said to be found in bananas, tomatoes, nuts, and dates, which is why eating them is supposed to lift our mood. Even the #1 happiness food, chocolate, seems to owe its addictive potential to a mysterious ingredient. The main ingredient you read about again and again is called serotonin. It's a chemical substance that is often present in lower concentrations in depressed people. But as plausible as eating yourself happy sounds, unfortunately, hardly any of it is true. Let's take a closer look at serotonin. Serotonin is a substance for nerve cells that our body mainly produces itself. It plays a certain role in depression, and as I said before, it has been found that the serotonin level in the brains of depressed people is apparently lower than in healthy people. In the body, serotonin regulates movements of our intestines and is therefore primarily found exactly there. 95% of the body's serotonin is in the intestine. It is true that some foods do contain traces of serotonin. It enters our blood through our digestion, but sadly, there it hardly influences our body's serotonin level. This is because food only contains tiny traces that have no effect on the body. On top, if serotonin were to make people happy, it would have to be able to act in the brain and not in the intestines. Could it move from our intestines to our brain? Sadly not. Serotonin from the blood does not reach the brain because our brain protects itself against many substances from outside with a special barrier, the so-called blood-brain barrier. The only serotonin that can act in the brain is the serotonin the brain produces itself. Only a few substances can actually get into the brain. For example, water, sugar is a nutrient for the brain cells, and certain amino acids. Serotonin from fruit, however, bounces off. Another thing you read on the internet a lot is that it is not foods high in serotonin that make us happy, but foods high in the amino acid tryptophan. Tryptophan is basically the raw material for serotonin. You find it in meat, cheese, and all protein-containing foods such as milk. Tryptophan can pass the blood-brain barrier and can be used to produce serotonin in the brain. Those who want to eat themselves happy, so the advice goes, should eat foods high in tryptophan. Unfortunately, I have to disappoint you again. A lot of tryptophan in the brain does not automatically mean a lot of serotonin, because the brain cells first have to convert tryptophan, and that takes time. And when they start producing it depends on the time of day, light, exercise, hormones, and other factors. On top, experts are certain that food cannot greatly increase the tryptophan concentrations in the brain, which would be needed for any kind of effect. This can only be achieved, if at all, with high doses of tryptophan as a drug in quantities that can never be achieved through diet. You might say now, wait a minute, I do feel happier when I eat a lot of chocolate, ice cream, or my favorite pizza, and yes, I do believe you. But this is probably not because of special substances, but mainly because of certain learning effects. We link the taste of a food to a positive life situation. To give you an example, after a visit to the pediatrician or when we got a good report card, our parents treated us with ice cream or chocolate. Even when we hurt ourselves, there was often a sweet treat to comfort us. Such positive connections in the brain ensure that we immediately feel good and happy when we eat our favorite food. And later, when we eat this food again in a different situation, we automatically recall this positive feeling with the taste of the food. It's not the neurotransmitter serotonin in the brain that's crucial for this, but a completely different chemical substance, dopamine. Dopamine is also produced in the brain. It plays a role in learning and in the so-called reward system. This is a group of brain regions that release dopamine when we experience a success or a sudden flash of inspiration, when we are motivated, when a plan works out, and when we perform actions that we know are good for us. This also explains the happiness kick that many chocolate lovers talk about when eating chocolate. It simply comes from the fact that the person eating chocolate likes chocolate. Sure, he likes the delicious aroma, the delicate melting on the tongue, the sweet taste. Then there's also the habit of eating chocolate in special situations, for comfort for example, or as a reward. This way, chocolate gains emotional significance, and this habit becomes anchored in the brain. As soon as we eat chocolate, the reward system reacts by releasing dopamine. The feeling of happiness when eating chocolate comes from this process in the brain, and not because there's dopamine in the chocolate. For chocolate lovers, the reward center jumps into action just by seeing pictures of chocolate. Just the prospect of the favorite substance gets the brain going. People who are not particularly keen on chocolate do not have this reaction. There's also an evolutionary explanation why chocolate, pizza and ice cream feel so good. They are almost always very high calorie, very high energy, very high sugar foods. And in evolution, we have always had to prefer foods that contain a lot of calories. That's why it's only too understandable that we have a reward system that also rewards the consumption of high-calorie foods with a good mood. So, although it's not the serotonin in chocolate that gives us such a good feeling, that doesn't mean we cannot continue enjoying it. The other day I got a huge bar of Toblerone, which I will probably have now. Thank you so much for watching my video today. I hope you liked it. It would be great if you could leave me a thumbs up, leave me a comment if you want, and subscribe to my channel. Thank you, bye bye, and stay curious.